The Holy Land, Jerusalem, a city sacred to billions. Jews, Christians, and Muslims trace their faith's most profound moments to this land. But with great significance comes a turbulent history, a history shaped by battles, empires, and unshakable faith. Why has this small piece of land been the focal point of so many conquests and religious devotion? Why do people still fight over it today? This is the story of the battle for the Holy Land, a clash of empires, belief, and power that has stretched for millennia, from ancient times to modern-day conflicts. Jerusalem has always stood at the heart of this battle. Stay with us as we delve into the roots of these conflicts, exploring the historic, spiritual, and political stakes that have fueled this enduring struggle. Number one, the beginning. The land promised to Abraham. You see, our story begins over 4,000 years ago with a man named Abraham. In the Bible, God promised Abraham that his descendants would inherit a land flowing with milk and honey, a land that would later be known as Israel. This wasn't just a land of abundance. It was to be the sacred home for the Jewish people chosen by God. But even from the start, this land was anything but peaceful. Abraham's descendants, the Israelites, would eventually find themselves enslaved in Egypt for centuries. After their miraculous escape, led by Moses, they set out to reclaim this promised land. However, Canaan was already inhabited by powerful and warlike nations. The Israelites had to fight for what they believed was divinely promised to them. The book of Joshua tells the story of the Israelites' conquest of Jericho, where the walls of the city famously collapsed after 7 days of marching around them. This marked the beginning of their violent struggle to claim Canaan. But their battles didn't end there. You see, for centuries, the Israelites would face continuous threats from surrounding empires, most notably the Egyptians, Philistines, and eventually the mighty Assyrian Empire. Yet, despite their struggles, one city emerged as the crown jewel of their conquest: Jerusalem. Number two, the building of the first temple. You see, around 1000 BC, King David's son Solomon built the first temple in Jerusalem, a majestic structure that would house the Ark of the Covenant, the physical symbol of God's presence among the Israelites. This temple became the heart of Jewish religious life, and Jerusalem was cemented as the spiritual center of the Jewish world. But it would not remain in Jewish hands for long. In 586 BC, the Babylonian Empire under King Nebuchadnezzar conquered Jerusalem, destroying Solomon's temple and exiling the Jewish people to Babylon. This was one of the darkest moments in Jewish history. But even in exile, their connection to the Holy Land never wavered. 70 years later, the Jewish people would return under the Persian Empire and rebuild their temple. However, the political landscape of the region was far from stable. The Holy Land would soon be swept up in the tidal wave of one of history's greatest conquerors, Alexander the Great. Number three, the Greek and Roman conquest. You see, in the 4th century BC, Alexander the Great conquered the Persian Empire, bringing the Holy Land under Greek control. Though the Jewish people were allowed some religious freedom, Greek influence began to sweep into every part of their culture, causing tension. This tension would eventually erupt into rebellion. In 167 BC, the Jewish Maccabees revolted against their Greek rulers, reclaiming Jerusalem and rededicating the temple, an event still celebrated today during Hanukkah. But peace was short-lived. By 63 BC, the Romans, under General Pompey, captured Jerusalem, beginning a new era of foreign rule over the Holy Land. The Romans allowed the Jewish people to rebuild their temple once again, and under King Herod's rule, it became even more magnificent. However, the Romans maintained strict control over the region, and growing resentment towards Roman occupation would soon give rise to one of the most significant figures in human history, Jesus of Nazareth. Number 4, the birth of Christianity and the fall of Jerusalem. In the 1st century AD, the Messiah and Jewish rabbi named Jesus began his ministry in the Holy Land, proclaiming the arrival of the kingdom of God. His teachings and miracles attracted large followings, but they also drew the ire of religious and political authorities. Jesus was ultimately crucified by the Romans in 30 AD and rose from the dead, sparking the birth of Christianity. Jerusalem, already sacred to the Jews, now became a pilgrimage destination for Christians as well. But even as the Roman Empire adopted Christianity, the city's troubles were far from over. In 70 AD, Roman forces under General Titus besieged Jerusalem in response to a Jewish revolt. The city was destroyed and the Second Temple was reduced to rubble. This marked the end of the Jewish Temple period and the beginning of nearly 2 millennia of Jewish exile from their sacred city. Within a few centuries, Christianity spread like wildfire across the Roman Empire, and by 313 AD, Emperor Constantine had legalized the religion, and soon after it became the official faith of Rome. Part 5. The Rise of Islam and the Islamic Conquest of Jerusalem. You see, in the 7th century, a new faith emerged from the Arabian Peninsula, Islam. Led by Muhammad, Muslim forces quickly expanded across the Middle East. By 638 AD, Islamic armies had conquered Jerusalem. Under Muslim rule, Jerusalem saw the construction of 2 of Islam's most important sites, the Dome of the Rock and Al-Aqsa Mosque. For Muslims, Jerusalem became the 3rd holiest city after Mecca and Medina. But with 3 religions now claiming the city as their own, tensions were bound to escalate. Number 6, the Crusades and the brutal struggle for Jerusalem. In 1095, Pope Urban II called for a holy war to reclaim Jerusalem from Muslim control. Thousands of knights and peasants from across Europe took up the cross, launching what became known as the Crusades. In 1099, the Crusaders captured Jerusalem in a brutal siege, massacring its Muslim and Jewish inhabitants. They established a Christian kingdom in the Holy Land, ruled by European nobles. However, the Crusaders' victory would not last. In 1187, the great Muslim leader, Saladin, recaptured Jerusalem, leaving a legacy of honor and military genius that is still revered today. Saladin's recapture of Jerusalem ignited more crusades, but none would succeed in permanently reclaiming the city. The struggle continued, with different empires vying for control, including the Ottoman Empire, which ruled for centuries until the early 20th century. Number 7, the modern-day conflict, a divided city. In the aftermath of World War I, the Ottoman Empire crumbled, and Britain gained control of the Holy Land. The 20th century saw increased tensions between Jews and Arabs as both groups laid claim to Jerusalem. The Balfour Declaration of 1917, which supported the establishment of a Jewish homeland, ignited a wave of conflict. In 1948, after World War II, the State of Israel was finally established, leading to the First Arab-Israeli War. Jerusalem was divided, with East Jerusalem falling under Jordanian control. It wasn't until the Six-Day War in 1967 that Israel would reunite the city, declaring it its capital. Today, Jerusalem remains a flashpoint of conflict. Israeli settlers and Palestinian residents continue to vie for control over neighborhoods, holy sites, and the very identity of the city itself. Peace remains elusive as religious fervor and nationalistic pride intertwine in the struggle for the Holy Land. You see, the Holy Land is more than just a piece of earth. It is a tapestry woven from the threads of the Bible, historical culture, and history. Each battle fought over Jerusalem tells a story of human aspiration and failure, of hope and despair. As we reflect on the centuries of conflict that have shaped this city, we have to ask ourselves, can Jerusalem become a symbol of peace rather than division? The city is a living testament to the resilience of the Jewish people and the enduring nature of faith in the Messiah, Jesus. Thank you for watching this video as we journey through the Battle of the Holy Land. This video is only intended to give you a general overview of its history. If you want me to dive deeper, leave it in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video, share, and subscribe if you want more deep dives into history, culture, and faith.